Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are actually talking about Facebook because the US government would really like to break them up as a monopoly. Now here's what's going on. This is coming from CNN and multiple other sources that have been reporting on this, but the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, renewed its bid to actually break up Facebook this past Thursday by filing an amended complaint in federal court alleging that Facebook has monopolized social media and harmed competition. Now, the new complaint comes about 2 months after a federal judge basically threw out the original complaint, arguing that the FTC had not provided sufficient evidence that Facebook holds a monopoly in social media to warrant allowing the case to continue. Now, in basically the new complaint, which is about 50% longer than the original one that was tossed, the FTC covers many of the same arguments. They continue to argue that Facebook broke the law by engaging in anti-competitive acquisitions, most notably Instagram and WhatsApp, and denied third-party apps access to Facebook's platform in anti-competitive ways. Facebook obviously has an army of lawyers, and they are responding, and I quote, "There was no valid claim that Facebook was a monopolist, and that has not changed. Our acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp were reviewed and cleared many years ago, and our platform policies are lawful. The FTC's claims are an effort to rewrite antitrust laws and upend settled expectations of merger review, declaring to the business community that no sale is ever final. We fight to win people's time and attention every day, and we will continue vigorously defending our company." Now, basically, Facebook's court deadline to respond to the amendment complaint is October 4th, so they've got a month and change to do that. This suit marks one of the largest legal challenges ever to Facebook's social media empire, if you will, at a time when it faces mounting scrutiny in the United States and abroad. If successful, it could lead Facebook to basically having to break off and spin off Instagram and WhatsApp into separate companies. Think of Ma Bell when they broke up into different regions, eventually completely being reabsorbed once again as AT&T. Now, the FTC also reiterated its claim that Facebook has used its access as a platform as a cudgel, basically cutting off third-party apps and imposing basically really bad terms on them. And as before, the FTC's new complaint tries to narrowly define the market for so-called, quote, personal social networking by specifically excluding purpose-centric social networks like LinkedIn or video platforms like YouTube. And interestingly enough, even Twitter, which the FTC argues is primarily meant for users to, quote, stay informed about and discuss events relevant to their interests. By contrast, according to the FTC, Facebook exists in a much smaller market of apps that advertise the ability to connect with friends and family. And I think, quite frankly, the FTC is correct. If you look at it, they have no real natural competitors, and their competitors out there tend to be more niche. Like, Twitter is not actually a competitor to Facebook. You're limited on characters. I think it's 240 characters, 140 characters, whatever that is. YouTube, obviously for video sharing, but I'm not going to be connecting with my friends to tell them what I had for dinner or whatever like you do on Facebook. And when you're looking at the other competitors in the market, they're basically non-existent. You have Parler, which a lot of people won't go to. Now they're niche, to basically a specific political demographic, even though anybody can join that. MeWe, which would probably be the closest thing that I have seen personally to what Facebook actually does, by having that digital town hall, has almost no users and is starting to look a lot like a politically demographic niche as well. And so a lot of users aren't going to use that. But Facebook, for the most part, tends to be open to everybody, providing obviously you meet the decorum there, meaning no misinformation and disinformation, something they've clamped down on. But I think this is actually a really important point, is that they are looking at things, offshoots like WhatsApp and Instagram as potential competitors, and therefore they are buying them out. They've also bought Oculus and a whole other slew of companies as well, and they have a real lockdown on the marketing side of it through social media, or rather the advertising side of it for marketing on the social media side. Unlike Google, that doesn't really have a social media platform. Google Plus was out there, but I think like 6 people signed up for that, so that really wasn't a thing for them. So I don't see natural competitors to Facebook that basically have any percentage of the market share that people can switch to. Now, it is true, you don't have to use Facebook. And I actually have friends that don't have Facebook accounts, or they had Facebook accounts and they quit Facebook, and that's totally cool. Quite frankly, they're probably more private, but not by being on Facebook. But I think this is really an interesting point. And so, is Facebook a monopoly? Yeah, I think they are, in the sense that they're the only game in town with this. And with 3 to 4 billion users worldwide, it's very hard to say they've got anybody that can play at that level or even attempt to get there. And these alternative social media platforms that attempt to do something along these lines, again, to the FTC's point, are very niche. I don't hang out with my friends telling what I had for dinner on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is for business, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see where this goes. I don't think the government is done with this fight now. They actually have an FTC that is run by somebody that is very much not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and all of that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bias here so much as it is not a fan of what they've done. I've had very serious problems with Facebook in the past, as you know, and I've mentioned this before. I actually did a video a couple of years ago called "It's Time to Put Mark Zuckerberg in Jail," because quite frankly, I think he's violating our privacy. He's violating the law by data mining us in the way he is and not really letting us know, not to mention the things like the Cambridge Analytica scandal, multiple data breaches out there that we have found or have been determined to have stemmed from Facebook. It's a huge problem. It's a huge mess, and it's a massive privacy violation, I think, to use that platform. But again, where are you going to go? I can sign up for any one of these and nobody's going to be there. And I think that's one of those things where when we were talking about big tech, this is the biggest of the tech. And so take that for what it's worth, but that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, monopolies aside, or please feel free to follow me at YouTube as well, a niche social media outlet. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.